YouTube, what's going on? It's Jamar here, Vegas Sense. So I've got a pretty controversial fragrance again here. This is going to be another one from Jeremy Fragrance's fragrance line, Fragrance One, and this one is Date for Men. All right, so I believe this is like a 5 ml decant that I received. It was a guy who was in one of the fragrance groups a few weeks ago. He posted that he was getting a bottle coming in soon of Date for Men, and he was going to go ahead and decant it out. So I went ahead and told him to send me a decant. This 5 ml I think cost me $14. So I mean, it's not super expensive, I would say, especially for a 5 ml. And I mean, it's a nice bottle with a decent atomizer on it as well. All right, so first thing I want to do here is just go through the notes of this particular fragrance. So the top notes on this one are pretty citrus heavy. You've got top notes of bergamot, mandarin orange, lemon, and juniper berry. And then in the mid, you've got patchouli and cardamom. In the base, you have oud as well as vetiver. So just sniffing this one off of the cap, and you know, obviously when you first spray it on in the opening, this one definitely has like a huge resemblance towards Jean-Paul Gaultier's Ultra Male. It definitely smells a lot like it, you know. And I would almost kind of say it has like that fruitiness of Ultra Male, but it's not as fruity, so it doesn't have as much of that like syrupy sweet sort of bubblegum sweetness that Ultra Male has. And I would also say that you do smell some of like the spice from the cardamom as well when you first spray this on. So it almost sort of has like that fruity sort of herb smell, I guess you could say, that you get from like a YSL-Y EDP. I can't remember which herb is in YSL-Y EDP. But it is a herb that is pretty prevalent in that particular fragrance, to my nose anyway. And that's pretty much, that's the difference that I would say that you get between this and an Ultra Male. So again, it's not super sweet. Now, honestly, this is, I would say, a much better fragrance than what Office for Men was. Office for Men, while you know, it definitely, it wasn't a bad fragrance. It didn't stink or anything like that. It just, I don't know. I felt like the Office for Men fragrance, there were so many much better fragrances to wear in the office than that. You know, I've only worn Office for Men maybe, I don't know, twice. And I mean, I have a 2 ml decant that I still have juice in. So that's how little I've worn Office for Men. Now, this particular fragrance, this is something that I could see being worn a lot more often than something like Office for Men. I wouldn't necessarily say that this is only a date scent. I think that this could also be pretty good for casual wear as well. I don't know if I would wear this one to work. You know, I mean, I guess you technically could if you wanted to, but I would say this would be good, obviously, for going on a date, good for just casually just lounging around at home, and it would also do good for just going out, you know, and doing whatever. So this is definitely, it's a solid scent for sure. Now, I would say the best part of this fragrance though is the dry down. So in the dry down, from what I can smell, I smell this to be a lot more oud heavy than what some other reviewers have said. You know, I've seen some reviews where people have said if oud wasn't, you know, in the note breakdown, or if someone didn't tell them the oud was in it, they couldn't really detect it. I would say after about an hour, that's mainly what I get is oud. I would say oud and patchouli for the most part. And it still sort of has like an undertone of sweetness to it as well. Now, as far as projection goes, the projection on this one is pretty decent. It's not like a beast mode projector. Like it's not gonna project like a Ultra Mall, but it's also not like a super light skin scent like maybe a La Nuit de l'Homme can be, you know, after like maybe the first hour and a half or so. It definitely projects a lot better than that, I would say. So it is going to be something that will be able to sort of reach out and grab people's attention. But you know, it's not going to be something that's going to be loud and obnoxious either. So again, I got to give props. I think that he did a good job, you know, Jeremy did, with having a nice balance, you know, between having it be a projecting fragrance and yet still having it be something that's a little bit more tamed and laid back. Now, the main thing that I get from this particular fragrance, you know, again, in that dry down, once I start to smell more of the oud, is it actually smells very, very, very similar to another fragrance that's actually an original fragrance from Interpretation House called Genre Parfums. So Genre Parfums has an original fragrance called RAMC, and it stands for Ran After My Car. And that one is pretty much, it's like pineapple and oud. And this smells very, very, very similar to that particular fragrance once this starts to dry down. It doesn't smell like the RAMC when you first spray RAMC on. When you first spray that particular fragrance on, it's very pineapple heavy, and it's like a really sort of like sparkling, effervescent type of pineapple. And it's really, really nice. This doesn't smell exactly like that because obviously this doesn't have pineapple in it, but it smells like that fragrance, especially in its dry down. Once the pineapple starts to sort of subside and the oud starts to push out a little bit more, this fragrance and RAMC start to become pretty much like brothers at that point. I still smell more complexity with RAMC than this. You know, if you were to spray this on one arm and RAMC on the other at the same time, and then you came back to them maybe an hour and a half later, you would notice that the RAMC is definitely a bit stronger and you smell more complexity to the scent than you get with this. Now, I'm not trying to say that this is in any way some sort of copy of RAMC, you know, or that was the intention, was to try to mimic RAMC. I just noticed that this particular fragrance smells a lot like RAMC, all right? So pretty much bottom line is this is a very, very nice fragrance. I haven't gotten anyone's opinion on it yet, but I don't see really anybody or too many people not liking this fragrance. I think that this is definitely blind buy worthy or blind buy safe. as far as the terms of smell goes. Now, I think the main thing that just absolutely kills what is, in my opinion, a really nice designer smelling fragrance is the price of this fragrance. So unfortunately, the price of this fragrance, as far as what it retails for anyway, is like, I believe it's $247.99. So we'll call it $250, and that's before tax. So, I mean, with taxes, I'm gonna assume it's probably gonna be like in the high 260s, maybe mid 270s with taxes. So you might as well call it $300 fragrance at that point. Now, there are, in my opinion, way better fragrances that you could either just buy only for date situations, or that you could buy that would cover any situation, that are within that price range, that in my opinion have much more complexity, much more character, that actually do smell niche quality. Not to say that anything about this fragrance smells cheap, because even when you first spray it on, you know, you don't get like an alcohol type of smell that you would normally get with most designer scents. So if you're like a fragrance sort of snob or enthusiast, I think that's something that you should definitely be able to pick up on with this fragrance. Is it does have good quality ingredients, but honestly, I think to most average people that are buying a fragrance because, you know, they want to get compliments from girls, or they're buying a date fragrance, I don't really think that they necessarily care about the quality of ingredients or who the perfumer is. They just want it to smell good to the girl that they're, you know, trying to impress. And, you know, I think that's really all that matters. So, I mean, when you look at the fragrances that you can buy in, let's say, like the $300 range, both from, and I'm gonna say both from, you know, buying it retail and also from discounters or Facebook groups, this particular fragrance at that price, it starts to become just it becomes a fragrance that you cannot recommend to anybody, I would say. Now, right now there is a like a 50% off discount that I believe expires like in a few days or whatnot. And pretty much with that discount, you're able to get the bottle for like $120 plus tax or something like that. Which, even again, I mean, with that being said, once you start to factor in taxes and stuff like that, you're getting into like 140, 150 range or so. Well, not 150, probably like 130, 140. That's still a lot of money. You know, it really is. You know, retail, you can buy YSL-Y EDP 100 ml bottle for like 120 plus tax. Is this better than YSL-Y EDP in my opinion? No, I would say this is probably, it's probably about the same as that. I think that those two fragrances could get, you know, the same type of results. Now, is this better than maybe Dior Sauvage? I would say that, yeah, this has more character than Dior Sauvage for sure. And it doesn't matter which concentration we're talking about, whether it's the EDT, EDP, or the Parfum. I would recommend this one over Dior Sauvage for sure. But, you know, at the full retail price of $250, you can get a full bottle of Creed Aventus from Facebook groups, an authentic full bottle for $250. You can get Parfum de Marly fragrances for that much. You can get Initio Parfums fragrances for that much. You can get Roja, Parfum fragrances for that much money. So this is in no way better than any of those houses, or any fragrance that any of those houses offer. So I think in order for this to be worth the buy, this is gonna have to be a fragrance that to everybody is accessible for about $80 on the low end to about $110, I would say, on the high end, as far as price goes. That's the only possible way that I could recommend this. Outside of that, I really can't. Now, I would say if you're able to catch this fragrance while it has that 50% off discount, then this is definitely worth the buy, I would say, especially if you don't have any fragrances that sort of fit this particular situation where you want something sexy and sensual and alluring or whatever. Then this is worth the buy at $120. Anything more than that, though, it's a hard pass. All right. So I hope you all were able to take something out of this particular review and impression. Pretty much, if I'm giving this a rating from 1 to 10, I would have to give it a 7. And I'm only giving it a 7 because pretty much the price of this just, it really takes it down. If this was a reasonably priced fragrance, this would definitely be a 9 out of 10 easily, because it really does smell good. I can't hate on any part of the smell of this particular fragrance whatsoever. This is a really good smelling fragrance. So hopefully, as Jeremy starts to produce more fragrances for different situations, I really hope that he adjusts his expectations of how he's going to market these fragrances and price them, because he is making good fragrances. I do have to say that. No matter if you think that these fragrances are sort of like copies or blends of other fragrances and they're not original, I mean, that's whatever. I mean, I think that this is definitely original. It smells like two fragrances that I know of, but it still has its own vibe to it. All right. So yeah, man, I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. If you can get it for a good price, definitely pick it up. It's definitely worth it. It's Jamar here, Vegas Scents. I'll see y'all in the next video.